Hey BoLS fans, AdamHarry back again with another Retro Corner review. Today we are looking at Necromunda, one of the greatest skirmish games ever. Man, I really like playing this game. I had a couple of my buddies and we played the crap out of this game, enjoyed it thoroughly. We had gangs, we ran seasons, stuff like that, so it was just campaigns, whatever. Fun times, fun game. I've got the rulebook here in the source book. I'll run through each and we'll go through them. So pretty stoked about this. I'm going to start with the rulebook. So yeah, here we go. Okay, for the rulebook, this was originally written by Rick Priestley right there, Jervis Johnson, and Andy Chambers, and this is my copy of the book, so I actually wrote my name in it. But I wanted to direct your attention to this page, which has the House Escher, this was a gang-based skirmish game, and you would come across all these different houses and stuff like that. You had Escher, then you had the Cawdor, Orlocks, Goliaths here, which were the big muscle dudes with the mohawks. And you had Dalek gangers, which were the weird snake spy guys. Anyway, and yeah, some other gangers too, but that's the gist of the book. The rules, this followed the Warhammer 40k 2nd edition rule set, which means it talked more about close combat. It was not a weapon skill versus weapon skill thing. It was different. Combat score modifiers were different. To hit, shooting was the same, but then shooting had modifiers for armor saves and everything like that. So ton of stuff. And again, this is a much loved copy. It's pretty beat up. I've had this for a long time. I did the 2nd edition Retro Corner and was like, oh man, I think I have my Necromunda books. Just getting all nostalgic. So yeah, let's keep going. This rulebook also had instructions for the buildings and everything that came in the physical Necromunda box. The box starting out had a bunch of Orlok versus Goliath gangers, and then also the cool looking buildings and everything like that. It takes place in a hive, so it's hive gangs fighting. If you're unfamiliar with that, but it goes through the characteristics and how that stuff worked. The turns sequence, which was moving, shooting, hand-to-hand combat, and then the recovery phase, which is slightly different from the 2nd edition game, and then how movement worked, charging and everything like that. How terrain worked. We have open ground, difficult ground, very difficult ground, which slows you down quite a bit, and impassable ground, and then of course walls and barriers, and who can shoot, shooting the closest target, stuff like that. The ranges on different guns, to hit modifiers, how cover worked in the game, different descriptions of cover, if you're in cover and partial cover and out in the open. So this was one of the finicky parts about the rule system, comparing in cover versus partial cover, especially when you're getting model's eye view. And then we might have had a couple arguments about what's cover exactly versus, out of cover and out in the open. So I remember a couple of let's say passionate debates about models being in cover or not. You could actually hit on a 7+. You just had to roll a d6. You roll 1d6, and if you roll a 6, you can roll again. And you had to roll 4 up, 5 up, 6+, stuff like that. So wound to wound chart, which is pretty much the same. I don't believe that's really changed a whole lot. So yeah, moving on. Injuries and how that works versus being down versus out of action. Yeah, so how that all worked. Wound modifiers, armor. This did use the same dice for artillery dice. So yeah, the fantasy version, and then we've kind of all just used the scatter die now, and not the artillery dice. We also had the sustain fire dice for weapon shots. So ammo rules. Going on Overwatch. Overwatch lets you shoot during your enemy's turn, but you took a penalty to shooting at them for being surprised or waiting for them. So yeah, and then we talk about combat again. How this combat worked was a lot different. I'll run you through this real fast. You both roll a d6 equal to the number of d6s equal to your attack characteristics. You have 3 attacks, you roll 3 dice. You have 1 attack, you roll 1 die. Work out the combat score. You pick the highest die from those rolls. So the guy with 3 attacks, if he rolls a 4, 5, and a 6, he's taking the 6. If the guy with 1 attack rolls a 3, he's got a 3. You compare. Then you add your weapon skill to the highest die, and any other modifiers, and we'll get to those later. Then you compare that to the other person's combat score. So that's your weapon skill number plus the highest die that you rolled, and that determines the winner. The number of hits equals the difference between the two combat scores. So the winner is the person with the highest combat score. You take the loser's combat score, subtract it from the winner. That's how many hits you caused. Then you roll compared to the wound chart, and then they get to make any saves with applicable modifiers, and then you resolve injuries. So you can see it was great for a skirmish game, because when you only have 10 models, combat's pretty simple. But when you're playing a big game like 40K second edition with, you know, upwards of 30, 40 models per side, and in some cases even more than that, it can really bog down. So especially close combat. We get into more stuff here. I really liked this this art piece there. I wrote all over it. Leadership test, all that fun stuff. Advanced game rules. This covers falling damage, jumping damage. If you shot and missed, there's a chance you could hit your buddy. The misfire table. Just a ton of cool stuff. That was the Vans here. I don't remember the name of them off the top of it, but they're in here. They're in here. Hatred and Frenzy. So there was psychology. Then we get into the weapon armory, which was like the warrior book from second edition. We get into all the different hand-to-hand combat weapons, all the cool pictures that they had. I spent lots of time going through here, reading through the rules and the weapons, and dreaming about rolling to get a needle pistol. On my gang leader was a big deal, because the needle pistols pretty much knock people out all the time. Getting a bolt gun was pretty devastating, because bolter shots were pretty deadly. And grenade, because nobody had armor, so it would rip right through your armor. Needle rifles and stuff like that. Heavy bolters, everything's pretty much shoulder mounted as well. Getting a las cannon in the Hive and the Underhive was pretty much unheard of, and if you got one, man, you were hot stuff, and people did not want to mess with your gang. Or they would all jump you at once and kill your ganger with the las cannon first. All the different grenades, all the different armor. Armor was there wasn't a lot of armor. If you were lucky, if you had flak armor, and if you had carapace, you were like a god among men, because you had an armor save. Getting a las cannon with the hotshot laser power pack and maybe a sight of some type was amazing. You're hitting guys and actually doing damage and taking them out. So other basic stuff. There's also bounty hunters in the game, which you could hire, and they would totally wreck shop for a game, and then if you couldn't pay them, they'd leave. And then all the different things you could find in the Archaeotech Horde and stuff like that. Ratskin Renegades, that's a faction from the other book supplement. All the different weapon summary, Underhive layouts. This is all just different scenario layouts for the stuff in the box, just to kind of give you an idea of what you can do. If you have several pieces, you can build this really cool layout. Hint, hint. So we had the Vansar. That's the guys. These are the guys, are the high-tech looking guys with the bodysuits. Ratskin Scouts. Different scum bounty hunter guys, Cador leaders. These are the guys with the hoods, and so Orlok leaders. I had a bunch of these models too. Really liked them. Orlok Juves, and then Escher leaders. Where's Mad Donna at? Yeah, you see what they did there. House Goliath. So yeah, just fun stuff. Fun game. There's House Goliath. Let's go take a look at the source book. Alright, here we have the Necromunda sourcebook. Again, this is my personal copy. It's very beat up, very worn down. There's the Vansar guys and more of those pictures. It's falling apart because it's old. I had this when I was a kid, and I spent a lot of time going through campaigns and stuff like that, and really going through this. I know a lot of the bindings coming off. I know a lot of people got the ring binding done to their books just to keep them in better shape, but this source book has all the Necromunda background, has information on how to run a campaign, how to level up your gangers and all that fun stuff, kind of the RPG elements in the game. It goes through the Hive and the Spire and how it all worked, and basically you had the Underhive, which was the lowest of the low, and then you had the top stuff, which was the Spire, where all the rich people lived. And it also goes into a bit about how Hive cities worked, if you've ever wondered what a Hive city was, or Hive planet, what that consisted of. The cities in the Dark Millennium, in the 40K universe, on certain planets with bad atmospheres or things like that, they maybe aren't the healthiest atmospheres, still get populated. So they construct these giant hive cities, and these are, you know, this is 10 miles tall, and who knows how wide it is at the bottom, but probably another 10 miles wide in certain areas. But when they build these cities, they build them straight up in these giant spire formations, and these hive cities, and basically the mega wealthy, let me back up, the more wealthy you are, the higher up. So it's very easy to see the social totem pole. Like if you're at the top, you're literally at the top. If you're at the bottom, you're literally in the bottom. And the waste collection system, from what I understand, was not the best in these hive cities, and literally the stuff rolls downhill, and so the lower you are at the bottom, you're literally living off the scraps of the top part of the hive. And so this is where like the spaceports and crap were anyway, and it would just kind of pour downhill, and that's why you have these terrible hive bottoms with the sump and the underhive. If you were underhive gangers, were like the lowest of the low gangs. Also, mutations were more common the lower you got, so because of radiation and poisonous clouds and all that nasty stuff. So hive cities were not the best. The wall separated the wealthy from the poor, and the ultra wealthy from the mostly super wealthy. So basically, imperial governor people would live up here, and then the nobles would live here, and then everybody else that your day-to-day worker Joes that worked at factories and mined the mines and did all the grunt work lived there. So pretty crazy, but it gets into all that stuff. Houses of the Hive Primus. Necromunda obviously is taking one specific hive and blowing that out so that you can read more about it. But then when you talk about the different houses, the Orlok house is known as the House of Iron because its foundations lie about the ferrous slag pits. Goliath is situated unfavorably within Hive City and occupies some of the deepest and harshest areas. They're kind of big on the heavy industry as well. Escher, the most strikingly different in all the houses of Necromunda, it's controlled by female dominated families. So it's the few males that are shriveled and imbecilic, perhaps as a result of genetic flaw within the house bloodline. Vansar is renowned for their quality of its technical projects, so they are the guys that make all the cool weapons and stuff. Daelik has benefits of special understanding with the house. They're the spies for the Imperial guys. House Cawdor is a stronghold of Cult of Redemption. So those are the guys with all the flamers and the hoods, the pointy hoods. These guys have the blue foldy hoods, and they are the super religious house. So that's the general thing. Merchant guilds and all those guys, how that all functioned in the Underhive. The Underhive was pretty rough. The structures there are some of the oldest because everything else is built on top of them. It's fallen apart. People will leave that area and try to settle other places, but that's also where some of the ores are and the fungus, high fungus that you could actually eat. And a lot of the Archaeotech horde, because it is old stuff, again, those big machines and stuff that the Imperials need to have the old stuff rebuilt. That's all down in the Archaeotech. So yeah, they'd go look for that. You also had mutants and outcasts, like the Redemptionist cult is actually part of them, and then also the Ratskin Renegades. These are the scout guides. They kind of had a Native American motif where they would have tribes and stuff, and you could hire them, and they would be your scouts and stuff like that. So they were kind of neat. Gangs, we've talked about that. Basically, the gangs were people that teamed up to survive. It's the Hive. It's a brutal place to live. So they go through all that, guns for hire, creating a gang, and then it gets into the rules of how to make a gang. You have to start with the leader, obviously, and then you have your regular gangers, your heavies. Heavies obviously had the big guns, and then Juves or juveniles. Your Juves were the guys that started off super crappy, and they're the young guys, young kids that you would hopefully get more games in with anybody else before they died or got older. And then once they did become veterans, they were pretty awesome because they'd have the most stat rolls if you rolled well. So then your ganger sheets there, and gang recruitment, how this all works. You start with 1,000 gilder, gold basically, to spend on recruiting your army and gang within the Fallen Godlines, and you had a minimum of 3 fighters, and you had to have a leader, and you could only have one leader. and then hiring gangers, heavies, and juves, and knives. Everybody is assumed to have a knife, even if it's not listed. It's the Hives. It's a rough place. And then you had to pay to recruit everybody. And again, it's falling apart. But then we go through the basic weapons, how to buy all that stuff. Certain houses had access to certain weapons, and certain weapons you couldn't get any other way. You had to buy them that way, or if you were really lucky, you could roll for them when you were doing the campaign. So you run through the campaign, hopefully with a couple buddies. You've got gangs that you're each making. When your fighters get knocked out of action, you definitely roll on the serious injury chart, which had some hilarity stuff in there. You could get multiple injuries, which you rolled on the chart multiple times. Captured would actually launch a special scenario where you have to have basically a payoff thing, or you actually fight them again. You could also get scars, so you could cause fear, or you could have impressive scars, which would +1 to your leadership, to just look cool, I guess. And survives against the odds. The fighter gains consciousness alone in the darkness, and they fight off all the stuff. You actually get extra experience points. So just a bunch of crazy old stuff. I think one of the worst ones was probably Old Battle Wound, other than dying, obviously. But I hated Old Battle Wound because you had to roll at the start of every game to see if that ganger was actually going to be able to participate. And I would almost rather them be dead so that I could just take their gear and reuse them. But whatever. The experience charts. These how to level up your guys, and then also the underdogs. If you were the underdog, you got bonuses. If you were not the underdog, you didn't get a bonus for winning or losing. So, and then we go through experience, stuff like that. So, and then you had to start, a new ganger started at 21 experience points. A leader and heavy, they started at 61 experience points. And then once you got to over 400 experience points, you were a mighty ganger, and you no longer gained experience points. But if you look at it, a Juve started off with 0 XP, and he's got a bunch of extra rolls compared to a ganger. He's got 3 extra rolls compared to a new ganger, and another like 6 or 7 rolls compared to a leader or heavy. So they had a chance to get extra abilities, which I was about to get to here. So advanced rolls, you could either get new skills, or you could get new characteristic increases. You could get all this crazy stuff, but they had max values too, so you couldn't go over certain values. You had to re-roll if you did. Combat skills, agility skills, and some of the skills were pretty dang cool. Each house had different access to different skills that you could roll on. That's one of the reasons the Orlocks were, in my opinion, really popular, because they had shooting skills and combat skills, so they were pretty well balanced. Goliaths had muscle and were pretty good in combat and ferocity. Vansar was really good at shooting and techno, so using technology. Caldor was really good at ferocity. So they just kind of balanced each other out, and they all had kind of their skill set they were really good at. And then how those all work together. Some of the shooting skill examples here, like crack shot. You can re-roll the injury dice when rolling injuries they inflict. Fast shot, they can fire again, things like that, or shoot at separate targets. Gunfighter, you can fire a pistol in each hand, so you can take 2 shots. Hip shooting, you can shoot even if you run in that turn. You take a -1 to your shooting modifier, and you can't use any sights. Marksman, so it extends the range. And rapid fire, you don't move in the shooting phase, you can shoot twice in the shooting phase, so things like that. So yeah, pretty cool. Techno skills, they let you invent weapons and fix stuff, so pretty cool. Territory, how that worked, collecting income, you'd roll in the income chart. Giant killer bonus, if you beat somebody that was really way higher level, you get a bonus. Territory table, you would have to send gangers out after a game that was not injured to go collect stuff. There was a chance that you could get some really cool stuff, like fighting an Architect horde. So you get a ton of cash off that. Again, my book's falling apart. Trading post, after the game, you'd have a whole kind of mini game of playing, you know, going through the trading post and rolling the rare trade chart and things like that. It's pretty fun. So it was a really cool campaign system. That's why this game was so popular. Also, hired guns, you could do that and have them bounty hunters help you out for a bit. Bratskin scouts. And then there's also, here's all the scenarios here. We have typical gang fight. Scavengers, 2 gangs show up to scavenge in one area and they gotta fight over it, see who's gonna get more loot at the end of the game. Hit and run, so one gang's attacking the other one on the run there, obviously. Ambush, you're completely jumping a gang, you're waiting on them and then you're attacking them. And then the raid, you're actually attacking their base. So that was pretty cool because you had sentries and stuff like that. The rescue mission, this is the one if you got a ganger that was captured, you could run the rescue mission and then shoot out. This is a crazy like Mexican shootout standoff thing where like the gangers lined up in 2 lines and then you had to roll and whoever failed the roll first shot and then you get minuses. It's pretty crazy, but fast draw. And you get bonus XP if you didn't shoot until the other guy shot and then you shot. So and then the whole breakdown of the post battle sequence. But the source book, pretty nuts, pretty good stuff. It is falling apart because I use it so much to play campaigns. I really enjoyed it. I kind of hope maybe one day Games Workshop will re-release Necromunda with some updated rules. I know Age of Sigmar just came out pretty recently. I kind of wish that those rules you could use them with Necromunda or relaunch the setting with the Age of Sigmar rules because they're both skirmish. You can use them really easily for skirmish games. Yeah, I just feel like it'd be very fluid, very easy. I can still play this version. I love this version, especially with the small scale. It works really well, and then just all the bookkeeping stuff on the back end was really fun. And you know, if your gang got too beat up, you could always just hit the reset button. So that was always fun. Anyway, this has been another trip through the BoLS Retro Corner. Hope you enjoyed it. This is AdamHarry signing off. Go play some Necromunda. Have a good one.